Okay, I'm here with the second part to this series of rating all the Vanguards here. Oops, this is the wrong picture. There we go. That's better. So far we've done, I think, 28 of these Vanguards so far, and we're going to do as many more as we can before I gotta go. And let's start first with Jace, Ingenious Mind Mage. So +2 for, okay, so 14 mana, 4 shields, blue, discard a card. So +2, discard a card, then draw 2 cards. That's not bad. Being able to get an extra 2 cards a turn. You discard one that maybe you don't need, or you just want to go to the graveyard. That's not a bad +2. +1, your creatures gain vigilance until the beginning of your next turn. Okay, so you can make your creatures blockers, and that's sometimes relevant. And that's still just a +1, so you're still building up shields. So that's not bad, but I'm probably going to use the +2 a little more most of the time, if I'm being honest. And then the plus, oops, that's not +1. Okay, there we go. Sometimes these upload out of order, so I need to make sure I'm grabbing the wrong one. Your creatures gain hexproof and prevent damage to the beginning of your next turn. Then, if you control 2 or less creatures, gain the control of the first opposing creature with the greatest base mana cost. Okay, so this is basically creature steal if you have room on your side. The hexproof and prevent damage. That'd be nice if the vigilance stayed um, on your creature side. Yeah, I mean, this would have been better if they just gave your creatures hexproof and prevent damage permanently. I think that would make this a very playable card because it's got 3 pretty decent abilities. You get that -8, and then you can just hit the +1 the next turn. So, yeah, just slightly missed the mark on the third ability that it has. But, I guess it's a playable card. It's um it's fine. I think I'm just gonna put it here. Functional. Next one, we got Jace the Living Guild Pact. This is one I use sometimes. 15 mana, 2 shields. Because of this +1, discard a card, then pick 2 of the first 4 spell cards from your library, fetch those cards, and destroy the others. So this is a great way to get spells into your graveyard too, because things like Capricious Hellraiser, Diluvian Primordial, those cards really care about what's in your graveyard in that way. So it makes it good for that. Plus, also, being able to fetch a Mystical Teachings and Tempt with Discovery is always very nice. So this alone makes it worth having in your collection. Return each opposing creature to your opponent's hand. So right there, you're kind of board wiping your opponent's side. So it's kind of like a little bit of a Deem Inferior. No, not Deem Inferior. Like Lawan Cephalid Princess is more like what this is doing. Pretty good effect. -8. Each player discards their hand and draws 6 cards. So um, it's a good way to disrupt your opponent's side. Depending on what you're playing, you may or may not like discarding your whole hand. But drawing 6 new cards is pretty good too. So depending on where you're at um, in the match, this could be more or less relevant. I would say this card is solid because that +1 is a pretty relevant ability these days. I wouldn't say this is quite meta, but maybe if people start to use it and um, find the utility in it, they will maybe start to. So um, it's not quite meta, but I do think it is a solid Vanguard that more people might want to take a look at. Jared Carthalion. The +1 create. Oh, so it's 17 mana, 5 shields, and 5 colors. So the 5 colors I think is the most relevant part of this Vanguard. Spoiler alert. I just think that this um, card doesn't do a whole lot for you, but let's talk about it. Create the Kavu token. I think the Kavu is like a 2/2 or 3/3 kind of vanilla um, token creature. The -3 is cool. Target creature gets +X +X. X is equal to the amount of green gems on board, up to 15. Then create a gold token. I like that the buff is permanent, but you're kind of at the mercy of chance there, right? You have to decide when to use that -3, and as you're gaining shields, you're just getting little Kavu tokens that aren't doing a whole lot for you. The coolest part of this Vanguard is the -6, but it does take a long time to get there, or yeah, it takes more turns than you want it to take, at least, I should say. Maybe it's not that long, but still. Turns in this game are very valuable, so waiting so many to do something has to really pay off. So destroy all simple tokens, then gain X mana. X is 2 times the amount of simple supports that were destroyed this way. So that can be very strong. Problem is, yeah, you just have to build too much for it, and I don't know. I think there's better use of resources than doing this. So it's a very much a rare use card. I've tried to build things around destroying simple supports, and it's takes too long to get there. I think there are much more simple routes to go to get a lot of function, or to achieve the same function, I should say. We got Jessica Thrice Reborn. This is a very interesting. Um, this is a very interesting Vanguard. 12 mana, 2 shields starts with. When a creature you control is reinforced for the first time each turn, the support gains X shields. X is the number of that creature's reinforcements times 3. So to get this thing shields up, you really want to play a lot of tokens, but really you want something that can reinforce your creatures at the same time in a big way. So what you do is you play a card that can reinforce you can really reinforce things, and then on your next turn, the next time that creature gets reinforced, then you put all the shields onto it. So the 0 is very strong. Deal X damage to your opponent's planeswalker. X is the support shield. You can really get this support shield up really high, really quickly. So it does become a nice win con, especially in creatureless builds. So that makes it really strong, potentially. Destroy 15 non-red gems for the -6, then deal X damage to each opposing creature. X is the number of red gems. I very rarely use this part of the card. It's really all about the way the passive ability and the 0 work together. This card was kind of all the rage when it first came out, and it's really dropped off in terms of usage, and I'm not 100% sure why, because it is very strong. I think it's just the amount of hoops you have to jump through. It can be very strong. It can be a very solid win con, especially in Guff decks. But yeah, maybe it's just not a style of play people are that into for the most part. People don't love sitting through creature token animations. So that could also be part of it, why people aren't using heavy token strategies. And there are a lot of different ways of getting rid of tokens pretty easily. But this is one of the more solid win cons when it comes to uh, token based decks. So it was meta at one time. I think I'm just going to put it like just independent of other things going on in the meta right now. I'm going to put this as functional because it's definitely a functional Vanguard. Like you can use it in a lot of different ways, but there's one kind of very um, overpowered way of using it, just putting it with Elspeth and Guff, which I think are the better Vanguards out of those. It's just the problem is this one doesn't do a lot on its own, whereas the other two do. So if you're waiting around for your other pieces to show up while this is just sitting there on the board, it doesn't do a lot for you. So maybe that's why it's not as popular as the other two Vanguards. Okay, next one. We got Jiang Yangu. At the beginning of your turn, if you control buff creature, your first creature, let's see, at the beginning of your turn, if you control buff creature, your first creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. I guess that's okay. It's only until end of turn. That kind of sucks. Let's see. What's the next one? Oh yeah, create a little doggo token. Mowu, creature dog, token legendary for -2. So yeah, you put this on the board, and your next turn you can create one of these little dogs, and yeah, I guess that's something. And then let's see, the minus. Okay, the minus. It's only a -2 to user uses third ability. Target token creature you control gets +3/+3. Okay, so you put that on the dog. Then if you control a creature with the dog subtype, creature gains Berserker and Trample until the beginning of your next turn. Okay, so you're just creating kind of a sacrificial creature. I don't know. That's really not doing a whole lot for most people. I mean, I guess if you get this early on and you don't have a lot of great options, it can do a decent amount for you. But I mean, it's not the worst. Um, I don't know. I guess I could put this rare use and be charitable to it, but I don't know. Would you guys rather see me trash, put it in the trash, or do you want me to be nice to it? I'll be nice for now, unless I run out of space in the rare use. Okay, looks like we got a comment here. Nicole Balls the Deceiver came along, and it's better than Jessica. Okay, we'll get to that. I don't know if I agree with that yet, but we'll look at it. Okay, Kaito Bane of Nightmares. 14 mana, 4 shields, blue and black. When a creature you control deals damage to your opponent's planeswalker, if this card is in your hand, it gains 2 mana. Okay. So that reduces the cost of it. So is it worth having in your deck no matter the cost? I think that's kind of how you have to look at some of these cards. Like, if a card is good enough, even if it costs a lot, you'll find ways to get it on a board. You can build around that. So mana cost doesn't necessarily mean, oh, it's cheap, so it's worth putting into your deck because it doesn't cost a lot of mana. There are too many exceptions to that rule of thumb to even think of it as a rule of thumb at this point. Create a Kaito Shadow Clone token, then your creatures get +1/+1. Okay. So the Kaito Shadow Clone token, I think, is just the same one that you get when you use one of Kaito the Planeswalker's abilities. And yeah, it's okay. I never was like a huge fan of those tokens, so grading one isn't that exciting for me. So what is the -2? The first opposing creature gains stun counter 2. Okay. So I think if you find a different way to add some shields to this support, and you can just keep stun countering your opponent's first creature, that can be useful, but that depends on other cards. So I don't know. I don't think this card brings enough to the table to really be worth really using much. So, I mean, I don't know. Is it better than the last card we used? Probably. I still think this is going to be a rare use card. I can't see a lot of people using it, but I don't think it's total trash. Okay, next Kaito. When you activate a loyalty ability for the first time during your turn, create a ninja token. Okay. I think the ninjas are just like little 1/1s, right? I forget what they are exactly, but they're not that strong. I think they come with unblockable at least, which is cool. +1, draw a card. Then ninja creatures you control get +1/+0 for each of their reinforcements. Okay. You can make your little ninja guys stronger as you go, just for +1ing them. That's all right. I mean, that has at least some ability to keep growing in size, and it's not totally terrible. The -5, destroy all gems and gain 5 loyalty. That can be kind of cool. Um, I think this one's a functional one. I don't think anything about it is super amazing or anything, but there is some little built-in synergies. They're just not like OP or anything, but I think you can get some utility out of it. Okay, next one. Karn Liberated. +3, exile all cards from your hand, then those cards gain a deciphered emblem, then draw 2 cards. So when this card first came out, Aminatu was not in the game yet. So there wasn't a whole lot of reason to exile your hand every turn, especially before you casted something. I mean, you could use this with Loot and Dragonhawk, but then if you're just exiling your cards from your hand before you even get to play your cards that you got for free, then this kind of works against you. Um, so I could see why people never really caught on to this card. And then the -3, exile the first card without mana from your opponent's hand. Then exile opposing support card at random. Those cards gain a deciphered emblem. So that is one way of, I guess, disrupting your opponent's side of the board. I guess if you played this card and used it twice, is that worth 17 mana? In most cases, probably not. You might get rid of like a nasty desert or demolition field that way if they don't get rid of it first. So I don't know. Supports to get rid of other supports aren't always the best. And then the -15, destroy all the creatures and all the gems. All of them. Then return all non-spell cards with the deciphered emblem from each player's exile to the battlefield. Under your control, those cards lose a deciphered emblem. So there was an interesting potential with this card, with using the +3 a bunch until you get to 15. The problem is, a lot of times you're not able to cast enough cards, or you need other things in play that are going to do things independent of you casting cards for it to be really useful in that way. Like, this ability can be very powerful, but I just feel like just play Aminatu, the Planeswalker, and get all that utility plus more without jumping through so many hoops. So it just ends up not being that great of a card. If you're using Aminatu, there are better ways of filling your exile. So this card just never really lived up to its potential, I guess. So I wouldn't say it's trash. I mean, it's close to trash, but I'm going to say it's rare use because I think some people might try and do something with it, but I don't know. I don't know who. Not me. Karn Living Legacy, +1. Convert 2 gems to the most present color on board. Okay. It's not great, but it's something. -2, create a Power Stone token, and then Power Stone tokens you control gain the Deciphered emblem. Okay, so you're getting that Deciphered thing again. Then -8. Fetch the first artifact from your library. It gains X mana. X is the number of artifact cards you control. Gosh, there's a way. I feel like there's way easier ways of fetching artifacts and gaining them mana. There's so many cards that do that for you already. You just play. I know it's a masterpiece, but just play Adaptive Omni Tool and you get all of that way easier. So yeah, this card isn't really doing a whole lot for people. This can maybe help you sometimes, a +1. But yeah, I would say this one's another trash Vanguard. It just doesn't. Even the things that sound like they could be useful aren't that cool. So even its highest upside doesn't seem all that great. So that's where we go with it. Karn Sign of Urza. This is kind of a cool Vanguard. +1, pick and fetch one of the first 2 cards from your library and destroy the others. So that's similar to Vanguards we've had before, where you raise their shields by getting a card and some advantage, some library destruction as well. So that +1 is usable. -1, you may pick one of the first 2 different cards from your exile. So there are actually very few ways in this game to empty your exile in any way. And this one was one of the ones that I used. One of the ways that I was using this was just taking things out of my exile for Capricious Hellraiser. If there was a card I didn't want him to fetch for me, I would just use this -1 to take it out, and it would leave me with a new card in its place for Hellraiser to fetch. So with Hellraiser going out of rotation here, standard, then this card really doesn't have much of a use there. At least that one doesn't to me. So it's not doing a lot for you there. And then Karn's Minor Construct token for the -4. It's basically a slightly worse version of the Scion token that the Scion of Urza Planeswalker token creates. When you create, while you control 3 or more, supports this creature gains prevent damage. So it has some usage. I would, with the -1 being so like dependent on certain things to work for you, or it's just really not. There's not a lot that interacts with taking things out of your exile. If there were more, maybe this would be a little bit more useful. I'm gonna put this one. I'll put this one in functional. I'll be a little bit generous to it because I do think that that +1 can be pretty useful. Picking and fetching cards is actually pretty underrated, I would say. The ability to grab the pieces from your deck that you need at any given time is really useful, and I think a lot of people don't take enough advantage of that. And then they go ahead and complain that the shuffler is broken. It's like put the odds a little bit more in your favor. Kaya Spirit's Justice, 16 mana, 3 shields, white and black. When a card enters your exile for the first time each turn, create 2 white and black spirit tokens. That's actually not bad. You just chuck a card from your hand and you get some tokens out of it. +1, Surveil 2, then exile the last card from your graveyard. Okay, so you hit this +1, and then you're automatically getting the little spirit token out of it. So you're basically exiling one of your cards when you do this Surveil 2, right? Oh, unless you surveil both cards. But yeah, that's kind of what you're doing with that. -14. Exile target creature you control, then exile all opposing creatures. Well, much like Kaya Spirit's Justice, the Planeswalker's loyalty costs, the -14 is way too high to get much use out of this. So this is going to be, yeah, if it wasn't -14, geez, -14 and you have to exile one of your creatures, that's kind of trash. So yeah, that's just not, this doesn't bring enough to the table to make it really worth playing in almost any circumstance. And there's just too much downside to the other things. So, yep, another trashy one. +1. Okay, Liliana of the Dark Realms. This is a pretty good Vanguard, if I remember correctly. 13 mana, 4 shields it starts with. +1, convert 3 gems to black. That's good. So it's basically functioning like a kind of a land or something as a Vanguard, and you're raising shields with it. So very good first ability there. What's the next one? -3. Target creature you control gets +X/+X until the beginning of your next turn. X is the number of black gems on the board. So that's an okay way to buff your creature, but you're -3. That's a lot of shields to lose for such a temporary and possibly not that significant buff. But the -6 is kind of cool. Gain X loyalty. X is the number of black gems on the board, then destroy all loyalty gems. So you can get a decent amount of loyalty out of this. And then you get some, a lot of times you get some gem conversion, or not conversion, but gem destruction cascades from destroying loyalty gems, and you get a decent amount of mana out of that. So two fairly good abilities in here. So I'd say this one is a solid Planeswalk or solid Vanguard. Two abilities that I think are pretty good. All right, Liliana Vess, one of the better Vanguards in Standard for sure. +1. Your opponent discards the first card with mana from their hand. When I first saw this card, I just kind of didn't think about it enough, but that is a super good ability because there are matches where I completely lock my opponent out because they're just playing a bunch of high cost cards and they never get lucky enough to cascade sometimes to put it into play. So you'll stall your opponent for a long time as you get your side of the board going if you're able to get a good rhythm going with the making them discard the cards that they're trying to play. Basically buys you an extra turn to do what you need to do. So very strong ability. One of the best abilities of any Vanguard in Standard right now, for sure, if not the best, just because of how oppressive it is. It can really keep people from being able to do much against you, keep players from it. So really strong. The -2, fetch the first creature card with the greatest mana cost from your library. So sometimes you'll be in a situation where you just really want to get your side of the board going, and you can manage to hold off on using the +1. But that's how good the +1 is. Like, you really have to make a decision. Like, this is a very good ability as well for different reasons. But you really have to decide, okay, am I going to +1 them again? Or do I, try and get more pieces of mine on the board with the -2. So, yeah, pretty good so far. Your creatures get +X and gain menace. X is the number of creature cards in all graveyards. So I have had times where I really got a huge amount of buffing from this. And the menace is good too to get around Sabsunin and all that. So this can be a good ability as well. So um, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you only just get a little buff and it's whatever. Even though you get the menace, which is pretty nice too. So I guess all your creatures gaining menace is fine. -7 is steep for that ability, but sometimes you just want to win quicker, and gaining your creatures a little bit of a buff will get there faster. So very much a late game thing. So I think this is a very well designed Vanguard, because that first one is super good. You can play the -2 when you need to, and then the -7 is a solid finisher sometimes. So it's definitely meta. That first ability is god tier, but the other two are just all right. But it's definitely a contender for being a god tier Vanguard for me in that regard. Lord Windgrace, 14 mana, 5 shields, black, red, and green. Pick one of the first 4 different land cards from your graveyard. Then, if you don't control a land card, that card gains full mana. So first you need a land card in the grave, and you also need to have one not in play. So that's a lot to do just to get the -2. Oh wait, start with the -2. I'll go back for the -1 or +1. Yeah, I never really found a good use for that. I feel like it was always pretty underwhelming to use that ability, so I never really did. And then what do we got for the +1? Discard a card and then draw 2 cards. That's not bad. There are 2 or more land cards in your graveyard. Gain 4 loyalty. So it's possibly a nice way to gain some loyalty, but most of the time you're probably not. You kind of need to build around this to get a lot of function out of it. Destroy an opposing artifact support for -5. Then create X green cat tokens. X is the number of land cards you control, including their reinforcement. So it's just a really awkwardly made Vanguard. The abilities just never really synergize with each other very well. It just makes it a very awkward Vanguard to use with no real good place to use it. And I think if you build for it and try and make this thing actually do something for you, it just doesn't really amount to much. Just creating a bunch of green cat tokens is like the best thing you get out of it, maybe. So yeah, it's just not. It's too weird. Like it just never really came together in a good way. So I can't see anybody really putting in the effort to make this halfway decent. So because I think that even if you were, you don't get enough of benefit out of it. So I think it's a trash Vanguard, to be honest. Mu Yan Ling. At the beginning of your turn, your first creature gains unblockable until end of turn. If you can't, the support gains 1 shield. Okay, another easy way to get around creatures who are defending. And I don't know, maybe more people will use Sabsunin now that Vindicator is rotating from standard. But I don't know. Maybe that's not that relevant of ability anymore. Sabsunin, getting around her is useful. So I think that's the only time these abilities are going to be that relevant. Draw 2 cards for a -2. That's okay, I guess. But then there's no way to raise the shields, right? Oh, unless you don't have a creature. So, okay. Then minus 11. Minus 11 has to be a good thing to even be worth it. Disable each creature opponent controls at the beginning of your next turn, then gain X mana. X is the sum of your current mana bonuses. That minus 11 is interesting, but it's minus 11. Jeez. And it's really not very easy to up your support shields, and this costs 18 mana. I don't know. Maybe this is. I don't own this one, so I've never really tried to do anything with it. I think it could be maybe cool. The gaining X mana, X is the sum of your current mana bonuses. Building around that in some way sounds fun, but I can't see it being very useful in most situations. I just think that this is going to be a waste of a. It's just going to be taking up space in your deck a lot of time. I don't know. I'm not confident in calling it trash, but at best, it's going to be a rare use. It might be demoted one day to trash if I get a hold of it at some point. Okay, here's a Vanguard I've used plenty of times over the years, or not years. I don't know how long it's been around. About a year and a half. One of the better Vanguards, I would say. Nicole Bolas, God Pharaoh, 20 mana, but it comes with 6 shields and it's blue, black, and red. The +3 is good. Drain 6 mana from the first 2 cards in your opponent's hand. That will help stall your opponent's side in a similar way as you would with Liliana. Actually, having both of these in play at the same time is pretty oppressive. But they're a little bit at odds with each other in that regard. But having them both out is pretty good for you defensively. -4, I love the -4. Exile the first opposing creature will cost 8 or greater, then gain X mana. X is that card's base mana cost. So this is awesome when you're able to exile like an Ulamog or a Galta or an Atraxa or something like that, and gaining tons of mana for it, just for a -4. So you're able to do this like the turn after you play it. It's great. I think it's a really solid ability. -10. Exile each opposing creature, then deal 15 damage to your opponent's planeswalker. That can come in handy sometimes too. I think that's a pretty decent ability as well. It takes a little bit of time to get to -10, but really not that long. Personally, I tend to use the -4 way more than the -10, but the -10 is there for you if you need it, and it's really not. It really only takes a couple of turns of the +3 to get there. The only thing about this card is that if your opponent doesn't have mana in their hand to drain, then you can't use the +3. But if you're in that situation, then you're probably doing okay anyway. So I think this one's definitely a meta Vanguard, and it was my favorite for a while until Guff came out. I still think that this is a good Vanguard, and surprised you don't see it played more often, to be honest. I think it's very solid. All right. Maybe my least favorite Vanguard to see on my opponent's side, and then it's never as good on my side. Nicole Bolas Planeswalker, 16 mana, 5 shields, 3 colors. Destroy a random opposing support. This can affect Vanguard supports. Yeah, the +2 is cool, except you can only +2 this when there's support on their side. And there tends to not be a lot of supports on their side when I'm playing this, but there always seems to be a bunch on my side that they keep getting rid of, so I hate that. And then same with this. If you control 2 or less creatures, gain control of target opposing creature, then reinforce that creature. So a lot of times I have more than 3 creatures on my side, so I can't use this, and then they don't, and then they use it on me and steal my creatures. So see where I'm going with my train of thought here. -9. This is the one I end up using the most actually when I play this card. Destroy up to 7 opposing cards with the greatest mana values. Your opponent discards all cards that can be discarded from their hand. Deals 7 damage to your opponent's planeswalker. So if you're able to get the shields up, this is really good. It's best to play this card with other Vanguards or proliferate decks so that you can use that -9 when you need to and really destroy your opponent's side that way. But it's just like in regular play, or when I have this just independent and I use it as one of the main methods of removal in my deck, it just never does enough for me. It just sits there dead most of the time. Whereas when my opponent uses it every time, they get so much more utility out of it than I ever do. It's a good Vanguard. I acknowledge that it's good. It's meta for sure because you see it all the time. But I hate using it. I hate seeing people use it on me. And yeah, I'm just going to continue to use my God Pharaoh Vanguard instead. Because I think it's, to me, the superior one on my side of the board. Superior and Greg's side of the board is the other one. Nicole Bolas, the Deceiver. Okay, here we go, the Hunter. I don't know if you're still around, but get to talk about this one now. I actually am not super familiar with it anymore at this point, so this will be a nice little refresher for me. 18 mana, Bolas Vanguard, 5 shields, 3 colors. +2. Your opponent loses 2 life for each creature card you control, including their reinforcements. That's pretty good, especially for a +2. So you're gaining shields as you make your opponent lose a good amount of life. So yeah, obviously you want to play this with a lot of tokens and stuff or ways to reinforce your creatures. And yeah, that's pretty solid. -4, destroy target creature and discard the last card without mana from your hand, then draw a card. Interesting. So you can destroy a target creature on your opponent's side, and then you do a little bit of discard draw. So you got to be careful when you use that and how you use it, but that's decent. And then -12. +2, deal X damage to any target, then gain X mana. X is the number of creature cards you control, including their reinforcements, plus the number of creature cards in all graveyards. Deal X. Okay, so that's pretty good. -12 is a lot, but if I really wanted to play this card, I would play it definitely with Guff and proliferate and do all that fun stuff. So I think there is good synergy here. I think you get more functionality out of it than Jessica. I haven't seen it enough to know if it's meta or not. I would like to play this card. It might be a while till I get it because I just don't really feel like trying to chase it with jewels right now. Maybe later on I'll feel differently about it and try and find something. Hunter's around. He says God tier. Oh yeah, my stupid live streaming the chat doesn't seem to work when I have a separate window open. For whatever reason, it just kind of leaves the chat frozen when I play uses an OBS. I don't know if that's a bug or something, but that means I just have to read out the chat here, unfortunately. So I might as well just like take the chat down because it's pretty much distracting at this point when people are saying things in the chat and it's not even showing up. So maybe I'll just not have the chat window up when I'm doing these kinds of live streams in the future. But anyway, Yeah, I mean, it's good. You can get a lot out of it. Is it better than the other boluses? I don't know. I can't confidently say that. I know the hunter is like a huge token guy. He has a whole series on his YouTube channel focusing on tokens. That's basically what his mission is in this game. His contribution to the community in general is documenting the tokens in this game for God knows what reason. I'm just messing with you, Hunter. But yeah, so I could see why he would be into this card there. Let me just take a break real quick. Okay, the Hunter says it's my number one VG, Elspeth VG plus MB VG and a Goth deck. Easy win cons. Yeah, I mean that was a great way to use Jessica when I was using it. So yeah, maybe I'll go back to that more when I get that Planeswalker or Planeswalker, get that Vanguard because I did like that. I did find myself winning quickly. It's just that Jessica had not a lot of functionality on its own, so you had to build other things around it. So it kind of sat there dead when you weren't using creatures or when you didn't have tokens on the board yet. And this brings more to the table so that you can use it when you're not when you don't have your side of the board set up optimally. Optimally, it's just habit now. Oh, you talk about the token thing? Yeah, I get it. Uh, okay, sorry about that. Do some IRL thing real quick. Okay, Nissa Genesis Mage. I think I have this one. I forget. um, +1, convert 2 gems to Planeswalker's colors for each creature you control. So at most, you're to converting 6 gems, which in mono green, if you're using this in mono green, this is a mono green Vanguard. That's all right. Converting 6 every turn. If you have 3 creatures on the board, but if you don't have any creatures on the board, then this card is not doing much for you there. At least that ability isn't. So I don't know. It's all right, but it's dependent on a lot of things happening for you. -3 creatures you control get +5/+5. Um, that's really not much. That's not enough. Well, it should cost less if you're gonna -3 and basically blow up your Vanguard. You spend 18 mana to get 5/5, give your creatures a +5/+5 buff. That's not good. -10, pick 2 of the first 4 creature cards from your library. Put those cards into play under your control. That is good, but you are gonna take a while to get there unless you have a way to up this Vanguard shields easier. And maybe you want to use this in like a green white or green blue deck that proliferates. That will um, that will make your +1 that much less effective, but you do get to the -10 quicker. So I think this one's functional. I think it's on the low end of functional, to be honest. But I think it's somewhat playable. I almost want to put it in rare use, but maybe it's a little bit better than the rare use Vanguards I have so far. Jessica can get popped easily to only 2 shields. Yeah, that's a good point. It is cheap though, at least. Let's see. This is 18 with 5 shields. Yeah, that's definitely a lot beefier. So okay, I'm definitely giving it the nod over Jessica, but I don't know if it's god tier quite yet. I feel like a, a Vanguard to be god tier has to like be really self sustaining and do a lot for you. And I feel like Bolus, the Bolus, the God Pharaoh Vanguard does more independently for you, and they're really strong abilities. But I hear what you're saying there. What's the next one? Oko the Ringleader. This is one that I actually want. I never got my hands on it because I just never really wanted to sink that much jewels into the Bloomborough Vanguards. But now that they have that epic pack, I've been kind of chasing it for whatever reason. But I think this is a good ability. The +2, create 2 gold tokens and gain the crime emblem. So that's obviously going to be great with the Oko the Ringleader, whose third ability is really dependent on you having that crime emblem. It's not like you can't use it without having the gold or having the crime emblem, but this makes a lot more. It makes it easier to get to his third ability without having to spend loyalty on his first ability. But the first ability is good too in Oko, so maybe that's not that big of a of a um, of a deterrent. Discard the last card from your hand, then create a copy of non-token creature you control. Okay. If you committed a crime, that card gains X mana. X is the number of simple tokens you control. Okay. So that's a way to copy a creature that you control, something like a Galta maybe. So that's a fun way of getting there, I guess, if you're playing a lot of gold tokens. So this one again synergizes a lot better with Oko the Planeswalker. But if you're playing with a lot of simple tokens, then this can also be useful in other Planeswalkers. I'm just not off the top of my head thinking of a good one. And then what's the -3? Fetch the first card from your opponent's library, then that card gains X mana. X is the number of simple tokens you control. Okay, so you're not stealing a card, you're just fetching a card from their opponent's side. So it's basically like a baby version of the Oko Planeswalker with way worse abilities. Oops. But I mean, I would say this is a solid card just because of the +1. I think there are a lot of things you can get out of it. I think it would probably be if a lot more people are using Oko and it was a little bit easier to get this Vanguard, it might be meta, but I don't know. I don't. Maybe it's not even that good. Maybe I'm thinking of it, rating it a little bit highly because I just want it. But it's an okay card. I think solid is pretty accurate. I forgot this Nissa. Nissa, Steward of the Elements. So +2, you create 2 elemental tokens. Okay. Then convert 3 gems to green and 3 gems to blue. That's actually pretty good for a +2. I know it starts with 2 shields, and but it is only a 10 mana cost. That's a oh wait, that's -8. Shoot. Oh, that's bad for -8. That's all you get. Oh man, that never mind. That's not nearly as good as I thought. Okay, so what's actually the +2? Pick one of the first 2 cards from your library, then fetch that card. I mean, that is a good ability. I was talking about fetching and the utility of it earlier, and that is pretty solid. +1, destroy the top card of your library, and then return the first card from your graveyard to your hand. It gains X mana. X is the support shield. I actually like this one. When I was using this card, just playing around with it, is the ability I use the most because you're still gaining shields, right? And I do think overall this +1, the things you get out of it is better than getting a +2 with the first thing, with the first ability that it has. So yeah, you're basically just like fetching a card from your graveyard and giving it mana, and that mana scales up. So that's actually pretty functional. It's just that -8 is way too much. That's way too expensive for what you get out of it. It was even like a -3. Okay, I can give that to you. But I think that if it was like a 0 or -1 or something like that, then this card would be way more playable than it is now. As of now, I'm going to put it in the functional category because I think those two first abilities are pretty solid. It's just that it kind of falls off severely by making that third ability a -8. Like, what were they thinking with that? Did they really think that that warranted that many shields? Okay, Quintorius Canned. I like this Planeswalker, or this Vanguard. Keep calling them Planeswalkers because they are named after them. Say, so it's 14 mana for 4 shields, red and white. +2, deal 3 damage to the first opposing creature and to your opponent's Planeswalker, gain 3 life. What I like about this one is that your opponent doesn't have to have creatures on their side to get that functionality out of it. So you can always just +2 this guy, and you're going to gain a little bit of life back, and that's relevant with some cards. You can play this with, like, Temp with Bunnies, for example, and build up the life gain. It's not nothing. It's not amazing, but it's not nothing. The -2 is Discover 2, so that's pretty good. Pick one of the first 2 cards in your library and give them half their mana. Always nice. And then I actually like the -5 as well. The only problem is it is -5, so you're going to be not able to spam this one as much as you want. But it's pretty solid. Create an Archaeological Spirit token, then all cards in your hand gain 3 mana. You play this in a heavy Proliferate deck. It's a fun way of getting a bunch of mana into your hand, which you can do whatever you want with afterwards. And yeah, I think this one's definitely solid. I think this is, like, for me, like the definition of a solid Vanguard. Absolutely playable. Surprised you don't see it a little more often. Maybe Chandra Hope's Beacon is probably still better of a Vanguard, but I think that one's pretty good. Webcore went through a run of not amazing, but certainly playable Vanguards, and they've just kind of fallen off in terms of that. And I don't know what happened. Did they get a new designer for these Vanguards or something? But they just haven't really hit with a very consistent rate lately. And so we're getting into some of these now. The last 3, 4, I mean, pretty much since Bloomborough, the Vanguards have not been nearly as great overall. But that's just my opinion on them. Okay, let me just grab them. +1 first. Roll Caller of Storms. +1, discard a card, then draw a card. Okay. Like we said before, it's an okay function. It's a pretty common function in this game too, though. So a card is going to have to bring a lot more to the table than this, and we'll see what else this brings. -1, deal 1 damage to each opposing creature until your opponent's Planeswalker. Why? 1 damage? Come on. That might as well be 0. I mean, there's only going to be a few creatures you're going to be able to take out with dealing 1 damage to them. And are you really that worried about most of them? Probably not. So it's going to take a while to have that do anything really useful. Discard your hand, then draw. Okay, so -8. Discard your hand, then draw 6 cards. Deal 6 damage to each opposing creature into your opponent's Planeswalker. So all that time of discard, draw, until you get the shields up enough. And then all you're doing is just discarding your hand, drawing 6 cards, and then dealing 6 damage to your opponent side of the board. Yeah, pretty trash, I gotta say. Really, I think that that -1 is, like, pretty much borderline insulting. Okay, next roll. Squeaky roll, Vanguard. Raw Crackling Wit, 19 mana for 4 shields When you cast a spell card, the support gains 1 shield. This effect can trigger up to 3 times per turn. So that's kind of a fun way of raising the support shields. I think that's kind of cool. So at most you're raising the shields on your own, +3 a turn. So getting to that -13 is still going to take a while either way. But let's see if that's worth it. What's the next one? The -1 is what? Create an otter token. So the otter tokens are the ones I think that have prowess, right? I still don't know if otter tokens are working correctly. Hunter, maybe you know, since you're the token guy. How are otters working? Are they fixed now? Do they actually get buffed when you trigger prowess? I think that was the issue with them before. Okay, what is the -13? -13 is discard your hand, then create a copy of up to the first 3 spell cards from your graveyard in your hand. Those cards gain half their mana. Okay, so you have to have spell cards in your graveyard. So that synergizes with the passive ability. Haven't gotten around to otters yet. Sorry, no worries. Maybe I'll try that. I don't know actually if I even have this Vanguard. I don't think I do. Or maybe I grabbed it when I was chasing the Oko Vanguard. I'll have to check. I'll get back to you guys on this one if I have it. Okay. So what are we doing here? Okay, so gaining 3 spell cards in your hand, half their mana. Depending on the spells is going to be what makes this card useful or not. -13 is so much though. I don't know. Is it even functional? I think this guy is probably going to be rare use because you have to do so much before you get to that -13. And by that point, is it worth it? I'm going to guess probably not. Okay, and I think this is the last raw Vanguard. No. Okay. So I'm just going to grab these and make them bigger. Biggin them. Okay, at the beginning of your turn, the first spell card in your hand that can gain mana gains 2 mana. Okay. And that's at least giving you functionality without even having to do much for it. That's all right. Next one. +2, deal 2 damage to a target opposing creature, then draw a card. So you're only going to be able to raise this shield if there is a card, a creature on your opponent's side. Don't really like that. I don't like when Vanguard's shield raising are dependent on other things happening on your opponent's side of the board, but it is what it is. And then the -13, draw 2 cards. Those cards get full mana. That is good, definitely. Are we using it much though for -13? Guys, that's a lot of shields that you need to get to before you get a pretty good effect. But is it going to be that great? Gosh, the -13. So what are they thinking with some of these shield costs on some of these? I don't know. I think this one's trash. Just because it just costs too much to do anything with it. Maybe I'm being too harsh with it, but then again, I was being probably too generous with other cards. So we're balancing out the universe here. Okay, we're getting there. We're in the S's. We are at Saheeli Rai. Another good Vanguard that used to see a lot more play than it does now. For 9 mana, 2 shields, +1, draw a card, then deal 2 damage to each opposing creature. So I'm pretty sure this one it works just to hit the +1 and draw a card, and you don't have to worry about your opponent not having creatures on their side to use it. So we always like that. Drawing an extra card a turn is pretty nice most of the time. -3, create a copy of target non-token creature into the battlefield under your control. Then that creature gains the artifact subtype. So this is a fun way of just putting, your opponent has a Rakdos on their side. Now you do, too. So that's a good way of anti-Rakdos tech. But, there's a lot of different reasons to use this card. You can copy one of your own creatures and, trigger an ETB, for example. So pretty nice for that reason. -3 means you can't like spam it every turn, but then again, it's a pretty solid effect. So you're not going to get. I see why you wouldn't want somebody just to be able to spam that all the time. But then again, what's it called? What's the name of that blue enchantment that copies a creature every turn? Blanking on it, but I can see the picture of the card. Man. Extravagant Replication. That's what I'm thinking. I love this Saheeli in Survivors of the Four Tribes. 1 and 2 for the damage and draw. Oh, that's a good idea. I use the Domri Vanguard for fetching creatures, and that helps to get the dinos I want. But yeah, that's not a bad idea. I might try that next time. Fetch the first artifact from your library, and then that card gains full mana. So this is good when you have artifacts in your hand or in your deck. And there are a lot of good artifacts right now. So this is one maybe you want to just build around one artifact and then just use that -4 and get it into play. That would be a fun way. Well, Portal to Phyrexia is out of standard now, but trying to think of other really good artifacts. I'll get back to you on that. I'll have to think about that. But very good very good Vanguard that probably should be meta, but for whatever reason is not very popular right now, but it is very solid. I like that Saheeli a lot. Okay, the newest Saheeli. Saheeli the Gifted. +2, create a servo token. That's going way back. To servos, that was Kaladesh. And that is, it's just a token support that gives your first creature a +1 buff. +1/+1 buff. So I guess if you keep just spamming this, you can, you could, there are things you can do with that. I don't hate that. I just haven't seen servos in a really long time, at least on my side of the board. Reduce the cost of -2. Reduce the cost of each artifact card in your hand by 4 until end of turn. Okay. So if you're playing an artifact heavy deck, say with Tezzeret, Betrayer of Flesh, this card can be useful for him there. And what's the -9? That's not -9. Reinforce your artifact cards 2 times. Okay. I'll have to think about okay, you definitely want to reinforce your artifact creatures, but are there any artifact supports that you want to do that for as well? Because I'm guessing that's what it's doing too. So I'll have to play around with this card. I don't have it. Don't think I'll have it anytime soon either. But it is an interesting one, and I think this one is functional. I'm going to put it in the functional category. Wait, servo is a creature token? I thought servos were the little tokens that the creatures make, like things like the what's that one guy? The Living Construct, Tezzeret's creature that he makes. I thought he makes a servo token every turn. Am I getting that wrong? I thought so. I don't know. I don't know. I'll have to look that up. Okay. Sarkhan Vol. 18 mana, 4 shields, red and green. Interesting. I wonder if we're going to get this Sarkhan as a planeswalker in the game. When a dragon creature enters the battlefield under your control, that creature gains haste until end of turn. This effect can trigger only once per turn. Okay, so obviously you want to play this with like Dragonhawk, but there are a lot of good dragons in standard right now. They're just not like super, um, not super useful, or not super strong, I should say. Why am I saying that? I think I'm getting distracted. It's a 1/1 construct. What is that? Beautiful. Stupid things. There's beautiful art, but useless otherwise. Really? Oh, their server supports too. Oh, so they're using servo twice. Well, that makes it a little less useful. I'm still gonna put it in the functional category, but that makes her a little worse to me. Um, +2, your creatures get +1/+1. Okay, fine. I guess you're mostly using that for the +2. So what is the -8 then? Create 4 red dragon tokens. Okay, so the red dragon tokens, I think these are the 3/3 red dragons, right? This will be pretty good if it was the 5/5 red dragon tokens, because that means that with this passive ability, you're getting a hasty dragon, a 20/20 hasty dragon on your side. But if it's just the 12/12, I mean, that's not awful, but it's not doing a whole lot for you, is it? I think it's okay. I think you could find use for this one. I think I'm going to put it rare use. Okay. Sorin, Grim Nemesis. I actually kind of like this Vanguard. Its passive ability. Okay, so it's 18 mana, 4 shields, white and black. When you gain life for the first time on your turn, creatures you control get +2/+2. That's a permanent buff. And if you're playing this in like a Johnny, for example, then it's pretty easy to get that little buff on your creatures. So that's not bad. For a passive ability, decent. Create X vampire tokens. X is the number of opposing creatures. I've used that for some objectives, but it's usually not creating enough vampire tokens to make a big difference there. The most you can make is 3 a turn. So I think there are more efficient ways for gaining that objective, but we are losing Galta and Mavrin, so that's going to make it a little bit more difficult to create vampires on your side, summon them, but definitely still a lot of ways of doing that. This card is, or that ability is all right. Then the -4, I think the -4 is kind of cool. Draw a card, then deal X damage to your opponent's planeswalker. X is that card's base mana cost. So it's kind of going to be luck of the draw as to what you get and how much damage you're going to do when you draw that card. So it's kind of all over the place, but I think this card is functional. It's nothing too amazing, but I think it's playable in certain events and stuff. So you want to use it there. That's not a bad idea. Okay. The next Sorin. 13 mana, 4 shields, mono black this time, which kind of sucks because Sorin Ravenous Neonate, the Planeswalker, is white and black. So +2, you create 2 food tokens, which is alright. You can use that for objectives and stuff. then destroy all tokens you control. This does include token creatures, though, too, so you gotta be careful with that. But destroying all tokens, if you fill your board with gold tokens, that's pretty solid. Um, I wish that this had just one more color to the Vanguard, so you have a little bit more flexibility in the planeswalkers you can use it with. Because I think if this was white, then you could use it with white and red and create a bunch of gold tokens that way. But you can still go black and red. I just like white red planeswalkers more than black red right now, with a couple of exceptions. But that's a tangent we don't have to go down right now. If you control 2 or less creatures gain control of target opposing creature, then your black and white creatures gain lifelink until end of turn. I think this second part doesn't trigger unless you have 2 or less creatures, so that made it a little less useful in the grand scheme of things. But overall, this card has some uses, and you can find a decent amount of them, but it's pretty niche. I think this is a good Vanguard for what it does, but it just fits in a very narrow slot. So I'm going to put it in rare use, which is maybe short selling it a little bit, but I don't know if it's as good as the functional Vanguards. The cards in the functional tier, I should say. Okay, Tamiyo Seasoned Scholar. 20 mana for 3 shield supports. So let's see what we get out of it. Target opposing creature gets -1/-1. Okay, already don't love that because we have to have an opposing creature on their side. It's kind of like the Jace Vanguard to raise its shield. You kind of have to target a creature, but at least you can target one of your own creatures. And so that makes this worse. Okay, so what is the -4? Return the first spell card from your graveyard to your hand. If that's a green card, that card gains full mana. Otherwise, that card gains half its mana. Okay, there is some good place to use that, right? You can get a free maybe template discovery, but you do have to get the shields up first somehow. It's okay. The fact that it's hard to get the support shield up makes it way worse. And then what's the -10? -10's got to be good for this to not be trash. Discard your hand and draw 6 cards, and each spell card in your hand gains 4 mana. That's okay. Gosh, I feel like this being a 20 mana support to cast and it's hard to get the shields up means that it's really going to be kind of hard to get the to get utility out of it, and they are pretty useful. So maybe this is one that you put with other proliferate in a proliferate deck. I'd have to try it in something like that, but is that going to be the best use of proliferate? Probably not. I don't know. It's hard to call this card trash when it does have good abilities to it, but I don't know. That 20 mana cost plus the prohibitive cost of shields means that I just don't see myself ever wanting to use it much. So that's going to be trash. The fabricate ability from College Made Servo supports and confusing to use the same name. Exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. Gotta go now. Oops, I'll watch the rest tomorrow. Cheers for all the reviews and good work. Thank you. Appreciate you hanging out. Forgot that you're like way ahead of us or at least me on the west coast of the U.S. But yeah, thanks for hanging out, and yeah, I look forward to hearing any comments you have on the rest of the stream later. We're not too far away. We only have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. We still have about 8 left to go. Let's see if we can knock them out here pretty soon. Teferi Temporal Archmage. At the beginning of combat on your turn, an opposing Vanguard support loses X shield. X is half the number of loyalty gems rounded down. okay. Um, at least it's a passive, so it's going to be triggering as long as there's a Vanguard on their side. But people aren't using Vanguards very much. I wonder if this review will change that at all. I mean, I'm not counting on it, but you never know. Maybe I'm more of an influence on this community than I give myself credit for. +1, pick one of the first 3 cards from your library, fetch that card and destroy the others, and that card gains 8 mana. I like that. That's like one of those old school Teferis, like the Mythic Teferi from the same set that gave us the God tier Teferi, the rare one. Um, that's pretty good, and it's also a +1. So what is the -10? -10 is convert 10 gems to blue. Okay. That's very steep. You can get a lot of mana out of that. I think that can be really good to pair with the time bubble supports and all that, the PMA ones. So, 4. Oh no, I disconnected. My OBS is disconnected. Okay. Looks like OBS has reconnected. Hopefully it doesn't give us a ton of issues. We're pretty close to done here. That would suck to have to come back later on and do a quick video just to do the rest of them. But anyway, okay, Teferi Temporal Pilgrim. Another one I kind of like. It's 9 mana, so it's on the cheaper side of Vanguards. It's 9 mana for 4 shields. I like that. Good cost to shield ratio. +1, draw a card, then drain 3 mana from the first card in your opponent's hand. So pretty. Those are both good abilities. Drawing a card is always nice, and then disrupting your opponent's hand even a little bit can keep you in the game a little longer while you set things up. And then we got the -2, create a white spirit token, then target creature gets +X/+X. X is the number of cards in your hand. I use this one sometimes when my opponent doesn't have mana in their hand and I still need to use an ability. Sometimes to trigger the Ichor Moon Gauntlet. Oh man, RIP to that card. A lot of the functionality of Vanguards is going to drop because that card is leaving standard. So that and Inexorable Tide. But we got, Metastatic Evangel, Dreamtide Whale, a couple other cards that proliferate, but nothing like those two. But Metastatic Evangel, if you build for that, you can up your shield count by a lot. So don't count that one out as far as a good pairing for Vanguards. And what is the -10? The -10 is pretty good, actually. Return all opposing non-token cards to their owner's hand. So that's definitely gotten me out of a few jams here and there. And another good card to use, good function for the proliferate deck. So this card is solid. Maybe not quite meta, but I think it is a card that probably should be used more than it is. But I just don't think people rate Vanguards very highly right now. Okay, +1. Fetch the first artifact from your library. Okay. 16 mana, 3 shields, blue and black. So you're going to want to use it with if you have an artifact that you rely on, like a Cryptex or something, that's pretty good. Oh, that's the -3. Okay, here's a -2. Or -1, I should say. Your first non-artifact creature gains the artifact subtype, then that creature gets +5/+5. That's not bad. A nice little buff for your creatures, and it's not going to cost you a whole lot. Okay, -4. Your opponent loses X life, and then you gain X life. X is the number of artifact cards you control, including their reinforcements. So it's definitely something you can build for. If you put that -1 on a token stack, for example, you can do a pretty good amount of damage. It's not going to take you that long to get there, too. You get the plus, you get a 3 shield support. You plus 1 a couple times, and then you use maybe the -1 once, and then you hit them with the -4 and do a decent amount of damage. So it's a long route to go for um, what might not amount to a whole lot, but I like the fact that it can scale. So I'm going to put this one in the functional category. It's definitely not as good as like the Bolas Vanguard, the Bolas the Deceiver, but I think people should probably play around with that one a little bit more. I don't know who owns it, to be honest. Tezzeret, Master of Metal. Here's one I like. Fetch the first 2 different artifact cards from your library. Those cards gain 1 mana for each of this support shield. I actually like that. It's 22 mana, but I was playing this a lot with the Golden Wish, Aminatu, other cards that cheat it out. As long as you're able to cheat this card out, it's pretty good. It brings a lot to the table, to be honest. That's good. Gaining the artifact cards. I really liked pairing this with the Gear Hulks. So you get a nice Bright Glass or an Oil Deep. Get into play pretty easily. Because it'll fetch them from your library into your hand, and then usually gets them pretty close to being able to use or to full mana a lot of times. So very good +1. I remember the -3 being pretty good too. Deal X damage to your opponent's planeswalker. X is the number of artifact cards you control, including their reinforcements. Okay, so that's pretty similar to the last Tezzeret we looked at. It's just basically a little slightly cheaper, and you can get there a little quicker for that reason. So what is the -12 again? I forget. But I have won games with that ability alone, or gotten close to it. Oh yeah, -12. Gain control of each opposing creature and Vanguard supports with base cost 18 or less. So a lot of the Vanguards are cheaper than 18, or at least 18. So this can be good, but a lot of times I didn't use it much because I didn't have room on my side and they weren't playing Vanguard. So the +1 is good. As long as you're able to cheat this card out in some way, it's a solid card. So that's where we're going to put it here. We're putting it in the solid category. All right, Venser the Sojourner, one of the more underrated Vanguards, because you do have to jump through a lot of hoops, but the -7 is really good. 14 mana, 3 shields, white and blue. Opposing creatures gain can't block until the end of turn, so it is hard to get the support's shield up because there has to be opposing creatures on their side to do that with. Um, and then the can't block is whatever. Sometimes that helps if you're playing, against the Sab Sunin and all that. So maybe this card will be a little more useful when people start to use that card a lot more. A random support you control gains 2 shields for the -2. Not great. So that's another reason you don't really see this card much. But the -7 is awesome. Exile X opposing cards at random. X is the greatest shield of supports you control. So this is one that you definitely want to pair with Proliferate and maybe a couple other Vanguards that you can raise their shields easily. Because you can just basically wipe out their side of the board with no consequence to you. And if you're playing a heavy Proliferate deck, you can get the shields up on this a lot, which means you can basically exile your opponent's side of the board at will when it gets going. So I've definitely built things around this. It's just not great in the early game, and sometimes by the time you're all set up and able to use it, you don't really need to that much because you're already pretty much in control of the match. So it is a little bit limited in its usefulness, um, but it has the potential to be such an oppressive defensive tool. So I really like this one. I kind of go back and forth between using it a lot and not. It's not a great card to use if you don't have ways to get that shield up. But if you do, this card is awesome. So I'm going to put this in the solid category. I think people definitely don't play this card enough or don't like think about it enough. I I think I've only ever seen it played against me once and it completely wrecked me. I was like, wait a second. I need that card. So I went and grabbed it. Took a while. But I think overall is worth it. Vivian of the Arkbow. 4 shields, 15 mana, mono green. +2. Target creature you control gets +2/+2. Okay. Fine, I guess. But if you don't have a creature, then you can't +2 it. -3, deal X damage to the first spawning creature. X is the power of your first creature. Okay, so that ability needs to be dependent on a creature anyway, so I guess this first point was moot. And then -9, your creatures get +4/+4 and gain trample until end of turn. Oh god, that's awful. -9 for that? What were they thinking? I mean, god. There's sometimes it's just baffling design decisions here. Yeah, this one is trash for sure. The best thing it does is a +2/+2 buff on one creature of yours. That is not making anybody excited. Okay, Vivian Reed, the Vanguard, is 18 mana for 3 shield, mono green support. +1 is Surveil 1. That's okay. At least you get to see what's coming up in your next turn, I guess. And it's raising shields, right? -4, destroying opposing artifact or enchantment card with the greatest mana value at random. That's kind of an awkward sentence, right? Most of the time, it's going to be the greatest mana value. It's not going to be a lot of cards with the greatest mana value with the same cost. So whatever. Otherwise, destroy an opposing creature with flying at random. Okay, so you can get rid of a Rakdos maybe, or something like that. So there are a lot of good flying creatures, so I guess that makes it a little more relevant. And then what's the -8? Your creatures get +2/+2 and gain vigilance, trample, and prevent damage. That's, I like that it's a permanent evergreen effect that you add to them. Um, you have to play this with creatures that are going to benefit a lot from that. So blockers, berserkers, things like that. -8 though, it's going to take a while to get there if you're not proliferating and all that. And is the Surveil one really worth spending all that time to give your creatures a little buff? In the meantime, they could easily be wiped away. So yeah, it just doesn't bring enough to the table to really make it worth using. I don't know if it's trash. I mean, how much did it cost? 18 mana. Yeah, that's too expensive for what you get out of it. So this is also going to be trash. So let's see what's next here. Oh, cool. We are getting close to done. Oops, I grabbed the wrong screenshots for this Vraska Relic Seeker. So I'll just load up the game and read them from there. But in the meantime, while the game is loading, actually, I will chat about Vranos here. See if we got the right screenshots. Okay. Vranos Masked Inquisitor. 15 mana, 3 shields, mono blue, +2. At random, 2 Vanguard supports you control gain resilient until the beginning of your next turn. Okay. So you're going to want to play this with other Vanguards, I would think, because who cares if your Vanguard, who cares if this Vanguard gets resilient if it's not doing much for you. But, okay, let's see what else it does. -4. Return a random opposing Vanguard support to the owner's hand. That card gains 5 mana. Gosh, if you compare that to some of our other Vanguards and what they do for us, this looks very weak in comparison, especially it being a -4, right? So, sorry, I'm just trying to find my, okay. I got the Vraska up, so let's just finish this one and then we'll go back to Vraska. Create -10. Create a construct token. That creature gets +10/+10 and gains vigilance and shield counter 1. So you're making a construct who blocks and is pretty big. For -10 though, that's gonna be a while to get there, even with the +2. And then the +2 was what again? Vanguard supports gaining shield or gaining resilient. So I don't know. That -10 isn't bringing enough to the table to be worth the time investment. +2 is interesting, but I don't know. Is that really that worth it? I mean, I guess maybe. This card intrigues me, but I don't think it's going to be that great. So I'm going to put it in the rare use. Okay, and then Vraska Relic Seeker. What was the first ability here? Was +2. Your creatures gain menace, and then those creatures gain the pirate subtype. Oh yeah, that was a pretty good way of making it so that your creatures can bypass your Sab Summons and Phyrexian Vindicators and whatnot. So I like that. And then -1, your pirate creatures gain double strike. That's really good. This was one of my favorite ways of making my creatures gain double strike. It's still a good card. I still use it here and there. Personally, I think that it should be meta. I think more people should use this card. But yeah, just in the fact that people aren't that high on Vanguards right now, so they don't really look to these as very good options. But I think it's a solid Vanguard. The -5, that's too expensive for what it you or -7, too expensive for what you get. Destroy the first opposing creature, then create 5 gold tokens. I mean, it's good, but it's just too expensive. So I think if that had a better -7, this would be a much more popular Vanguard, because I think the first 2 abilities are very good. Okay, I think this is the last one. Ren and Realmbreaker. +1. Create X forest tokens. X is equal to the amount of green gems on the board, up to 5. Then creatures you control gain the land subtype. So I think this card had some potential when it first came out, but I don't know if a lot of people really cared that much about it. But it is a pretty good card there. The forest tokens creating 5 forest tokens is pretty decent. Creatures gaining the land subtype is very interesting, because there are cards that really like it when you have lands in play, and reinforcing them does cool stuff. Destroy the top 2 cards of your library, then draw a card. If that card's a land card, that card gains half its mana. So it wants us to be playing lands in our hand or in our deck as well. The -2 I never used that much. It was all about trying to get to the -7 after using the +1 a few times. And what does that -7 do? Land creatures you control get +X/+X and +X/+X for each of their reinforcements. X is the number of green gems on the board. So if you played this at the right time, that -7, you could really make your creatures huge. So this would become a win con in certain situations, but it was pretty unreliable. A lot of hoops to jump through, but it was strong. I'm saying it like it's not in standard anymore or anything like that, but I'm just talking in the past tense because that's when I was using it before. I've had this card for like a year or so and did all sorts of things with it. Was never quite reliable enough to get a lot out of it. I think it's all right. This one might be fun to play with Omo. That might be something I might want to try here, just to see if I can use it without having to worry about getting the land subtype on everything. But maybe I still have to do the +1 sometime. But yeah, I'll try that out and I'll see how it works. But anyhow, that is it. That is okay. Let me just put this guy. I think I'm gonna put him in functional. Is he functional or rare use? I think it's rare use, but it's like high-end rare use. Because I think if you build for it, can be very strong, but it's a lot of building for something. But, you know, I mean, it's not that functional outside of that. So, yeah, no, I think it's rare use. It's a high-end rare use card, but I think it's good when it works. So there we have it. That is all of the Vanguards in the game currently in standard, minus the ones that are rotating out in like a week and a half or whatever. That's my guess. I don't know for sure if that's when the next set drops, but they have been good about following the schedule. So, all right. So thank you for hanging out. If you watch, I think I did 3 hours worth of reviewing these Vanguards in total. So if you enjoy what I do here, I do have a channel membership now, both here on YouTube, and you can go to ko-fi.com/mainloop and see what I offer there if you just want to give me a few bucks for thanks for what I do here and get just a little bit of extra content out of it. As I go, I'm hoping to build that library of paid content up higher so that it makes it a little bit more enticing for people. But yeah, just right now, just kind of relying on the generosity of good folks. So thanks again. Even if you're not interested in that, you can always hit the like button, and that helps this channel grow a little bit. Maybe more people, maybe this will get suggested to people who are playing other Magic the Gathering games and gets them into it just by happenstance. So you never know how YouTube works. People are always discovering things on here, and so we hope that more people discover this game so it can grow and become better, because more players equals more potential revenue and more resources to put into the game by the developers. So everything helps in a small part. So whatever you can do that would help would be greatly appreciated, both by myself and possibly by the community. All right, that's enough of my spiel. Thanks for